It's the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. Oh, wait a minute. Hav, you made it.
Barely.
No, actually, you're 11 minutes late, but who's counting?
If you don't make these phone calls, it's going to be real tough.
Yeah.
This is classic.
Yep.
Hi, how's everybody? How are you?
Yeah, listen, the set is new and
Right.
changed,
What's going on here? What happened?
In honor of you being late.
Really?
We're late.
stuff.
This is our main camera right now. We're late because the market's making us late.
Listen,
right?
let me tell you, I'm late because I had to go get a condo approval. And this is one of the things I'm saying. So we have a closing on Monday. No condo approval, no condo like anything, no management company, no nada. So we had to create the approval. We had to go get the attorney to do the notary. We had to take the paperwork to the president and the secretary of the condominium. We had to get them to sign it. And the buyers of this particular unit had already been interviewed 3 weeks ago and approved. Management company, nowhere to be found.
Wow. Oh, so you had done everything correctly.
Oh, absolutely.
The buyer
had already done
seller,
everybody.
the two agents,
Mhm.
the attorneys have done everything they're supposed to. And,
Exactly.
and for those of you that don't understand this, it's really interesting. When you purchase a condo,
Mhm.
and sometimes even in an HOA,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's an approval letter that's needed, meaning that the title company
Right.
or the attorney who's going to close the transaction literally cannot move forward until this condo or HOA approval is in their hands.
So
right?
Javi,
An original, by the way.
original and notarized, which is the best part. So I had to go actually literally take the attorney to the house and say, hi, could you guys sign this for me?
Do we want to mention the condo association?
No. The association is fine. It's the actual management company that
Do you want to mention the management company?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this is
because
what we call...
as a condo, as a LCAM, I should not offend other LCAMs. So,
But the bottom line is there are lots of moving parts in
Absolutely.
transactions. We all are focused,
Mhm.
laser focused on pricing these
transaction,
days.
yeah.
And the reality is all the participants in the transaction need to think well beyond the purchase price, which are still going up,
Oh no, it's insane.
in order to get something closed.
Mhm.
Because I have to tell you, I don't know what your feeling is. And of course, we're only a small portion of the market. I'm seeing lots of things come back on the market now.
Yeah, and in certain areas, in certain neighborhoods. Like I'm working with a client right now that's up in Miami Springs and Miami Shores, two areas, and you can see it. You can see that they come on, then they'll come back. They'll go, active with contract or pending sale, and then they come back on.
They come back on, and we don't even have to look why.
Yeah.
What's the reason why most of these things come back on
Okay,
market?
so most of them are appraisal issues if it's financing, and the other thing too is inspection issues with cast iron piping.
Right.
So those are the two big things that you're going to run into.
Yeah, and then it's starting to wane a little bit,
Mhm.
but the big buyer concerns that every buyer that's walking into a home
Right.
Should be looking at cast iron pipes, right,
Yeah. Mhm.
and roof.
Yeah.
And it used to be that cast iron pipes and roofs were about the same,
Mhm.
but now we're beyond that arc of when
for sure.
an Andrew roof
For sure.
would survive to.
For sure.
And so most of the roofs we're seeing have been cared for in the last couple of years because they needed it.
And
right?
also galvanized pipes. So we still have
Right,
some
galvanized
of that. So we
pipes.
have some of that still out there. And I think one of the other things, I don't know if we talked about this on one of the shows, the last shows, but I have been noticing a different type of cash buyer. And I don't know if we talked about that. If we remember in the heydays, it was all cash coming in.
Right.
And it's like, there's, $2.5 million and there's a 2.5 million. Now there's actually a portion. So it's $1 million down and we're financing 1.5.
So let's talk about that because
so that's actually something new that I have been seeing. So it's almost like the secondary buyer, that first big influx of big money came in already and it's out there and it's done. Now the second folks that are coming in, we would call them, the middle class of the northern blue
at
states.
$2.5 million
At
bucks,
$2.5
it's
million
not
bucks,
the middle class.
This is Miami. And I think what's happening is you can see that now the first chunk of big cash has come through.
Mhm.
Now we're looking at a different type of buyer that does need financing. It is going to be required financing, which then brings in a whole back realm that a lot of these folks don't know is now you do need insurance, because if you buy cash, you don't need insurance. You don't have to have windstorm.
Are you still seeing these people that are bringing a significant amount of cash, but not all of it, and then requiring financing? Are they marking a finance deal on their offer, or are they saying
No,
it's a cash transaction?
they'll say cash. If it's competitive, they'll say cash, or they'll do the contingency, but the contingency may be like for 30% of the deal.
So this is something that we should explain to our viewers,
Mhm.
which is when you are making an offer,
Mhm.
one of the contingencies typically
Yep.
is financing. And once a buyer says, hey, I'm going to use financing, then both of the agents and the seller have to understand that there's a third party involved
Right.
at that point.
Yeah.
And so
Actually,
a number of
a
things,
couple more parties.
right, but a third party
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah.
And so it's no longer really just the buyer and seller acting upon the contract.
Right.
It's other people that have to contribute
Yep.
to make it to closing. So you're now talking about somebody that needs financing, yet they're still checking off cash.
Yeah.
What are the advantages of that? What are the disadvantages of that? So that people understand what that really means. You and I do
Yeah.
this every day,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't understand.
When you mark that cash off, and I do it when I was investing in properties, and I knew that I was going to get financing. It really didn't affect me because I knew my lender was going to be able to do the deal based upon my financials. So that's one of the advantages of marking cash, and then you don't have to go through the financing contingencies, or you don't have to go through the appraisal process. You don't have to go through a lot of the little details that are out there, as opposed to once you mark a contract with a contingency of financing, you're going to have to go through a commitment period. The lender can have any kind of requirements. Yeah. And I will tell you one that most people don't really pay attention to. And we just had this happen to a client of ours, is that it doesn't matter that you're financing X amount of dollars. Let's say you're buying a condominium. Let's say you're buying, 50
that
Biscayne. So you're buying 50, you're buying a unit at 50 Biscayne, and that little lender, that 30% or 40% may say, hey, that's great, but that building doesn't qualify because that building doesn't have the reserves, doesn't have this, doesn't have that, has a lawsuit, doesn't have the insurance, whatever It could be.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your deal is going to be, tricky because you're going to have to, work around a lot of issues. And that's something that you don't realize once you're bringing in that financing contingency. As you mentioned, you're adding other players. Those players have their rules and their standards. And you just got to make sure that you have those ducks crossed, as you move forward.
Yeah. So we are in a challenging market, meaning, the market's hot, but there are challenges in trying to get deals closed. Yeah. We just talked about one of the ways that things can get challenging if you mark off cash and you still have a lot of things to do to get the finance portion of that into the cash deal. Anything happen over the last week that might be interesting to talk about on a deal of yours?
That the Dolphins fired Flores.
I knew you were going to go there. Look, listen, I'll take 2 minutes, but this is not real estate.
No, we'll do that. No, I think the biggest challenges that we've had with any of these deals is just making sure that the buyers understand once they're doing this thing contractually what it means. And I think a lot of times they don't realize, especially now with the new contract laws, where once you have your commitment, your deal is hard, or once you have your approval, your deal is hard. So I think that's one of the big steps that I think it's more educating the buyers as they are taking this step, especially if their agent maybe doesn't have the experience that we do. And I think that's one of the key elements that I could see.
So this was not my deal, but I paid attention to this because I was covering for another agent while they were away. And I found this very interesting. So she had a buyer. We put in an offer. It was my job to kind of watch that offer percolate and hopefully get it to a contract stage, which we did, thankfully. The seller's agent, when I went to go see the property with the buyer, happened to come there. It was a lockbox. We went to go see the property. As we're watching, looking through the property, the agent comes in with her husband. And so I'm being very observant of what's going on because that's not typical. You get a lockbox combination, you go in and see it on your own. Right. So I, say the pleasantries and introduce myself. And the husband's kind of walking around really paying attention. And I said, oh, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a lender. And in the back of my head, because you and I are smart people, I go, oh, that's a lender. And it's the husband of the agent who's trying to sell this thing.
Right.
And everybody's looking for an angle so that their offer will be considered. So this is an intangible, things that people don't talk about. We knew there was going to be competition. It was a mid-priced townhouse. And so I went back to the buyer and to their agent, because again, I'm covering for the agent. I said, listen, if you're going to make an offer, one way to make it stronger is to say, listen, we'll use this lender, because now husband and wife are making more money
Right,
than they
yeah,
would if the
yeah.
wife was just the agent on the deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, lo and behold, of course, that worked. Okay. And something else happened on that deal, which I thought was really interesting. As is typical, this person put in an offer of a certain price and said, listen, if it doesn't appraise, we'll pay up to,
Right.
at that point, it was $10,000 above the appraised value, not to exceed the purchase price. This is a term that, agents use pretty regularly in a hot
especially now.
seller's market.
Yeah.
The response was, we don't want that. We want you to put in all $10,000 above the appraised value, regardless of what the appraisal is.
Nice. There you go.
Now that is a greedy seller.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about that? How would you have handled that? Because I thought that was a very interesting counter offer to our proposal.
So I rarely, if ever, put in that appraisal that will waive the amount of money. It's just something that's inherent in me. So I wouldn't have been in that position, simply because that's something that even
All
if
right, well, let's say you put in an offer at a certain price, and the seller's agent, the listing agent, said, listen, my seller is interested in this, but regardless of the appraisal, we want you to kick in money. This is like a subset. I really want to dig into this because there's a lot of mental things going on here.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is if it doesn't appraise, your buyer will always feel that they're being shortchanged and they're being, that they're buying something that isn't worth it. You can spend time educating the buyer, saying, hey, listen, these are some of the options that you will have or could have available to you. But I don't do it. I don't do it for those reasons. For the reasons that your state, that you're kind of bringing out is, first of all, and I know it's a hot market, but you feel like you're overpaying for the property unless the buyer has a passion for it, unless there's also some numbers in there that allow, how should I say, a little bit of the spread to maybe come back in. Maybe we know that the appraisal may come in over, then I'll let them do it. Like, let's say, we have a deal at 450 and we're under contract at 460, but you and I may know that it could push to 470, or at least at 460. Then I feel more comfortable with it.
We have talked about this in roundabout ways, and I want to go right down to it. I believe that what we have right now is, as a buyer, you have to play two games, and I guess as a seller too. But I'm going to focus on the buyer's viewpoint of this. You have the first game is right now. If you're interested in a property, it's you against the world. Yeah, there are a bunch of other people that are interested in that property, and you're playing in a game with maybe even 100 people, right? Yeah. Certainly more than two. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not playing in a,
So game one is to win and be the only person that the seller now has to deal with. So getting into contract is game one. And sometimes playing that game one puts you in a really bad place to close the deal because things are crazy, right? Yeah. So you may put in, I'll pay $10,000 above the appraised value regardless. Right. And you say to yourself, okay, that's the last $10,000 I have that's liquid to do that. And then something happens after that, and you've won the contract. And so now in inspections, the seller decides they're going to play the game of, well, I'm not giving a penny. Right. They're willing to pay $10,000 above what the market says it is. Yeah. There's a lot of things that go into this. And my first reaction to the seller saying, hey, I want $10,000 above appraised value was, what an amazing amount of greed.
Yeah. No. And I'll tell you something that happened to me on another deal that we just we're actually closing on it. We had a contract in place and we had several offers come in because, again, you do these showings and there's, 10 people, 11 people, 12, couples like all over. And then all of a sudden you get panic offers. And the way that I've always handled them is I let those offers stew for a day to make sure that that person that came in with your agent or without an agent, because that we get a lot too, going directly to the listing agent for whatever reasons. And then I let those guys kind of stew there for a bit, because what will end up happening is that they're going through a panic buy or they feel that pressure. And it's great to bring them back to the board, because you'll see that all of a sudden the conversation starts to change. Now it's not cash anymore. Now I got to get financing.
Yeah.
Now I can't go to the, X amount of dollars. Now I got to go here. Now it's this, and all of a sudden you start to see,
Yeah.
and I had at one contract, I had 3 backups. None of the backups came through.
Worked.
None of them.
So we are watching a unique situation, I believe, where it's so hot that people are doing anything to get an edge, and some of them are doing it maliciously, and some of them are doing that just because they've got so caught up in things. Last night, I put on a listing in Pinecrest. Very nice home on a lake. If you're interested, get in touch with me. Okay, it's listed at 3.5 million. Okay, which a year ago would have been unheard of. But you know what? Now it's a reasonable price for that property. And I said, listen, the seller's not ready. In the MLS listing, it says seller's not interested in showing until Sunday. And on Sunday, we're going to do like an open house for him, but you have to schedule it so that we don't have a zoo there. And we're going to have a zoo there. Got a call, of course, not from one, but from many agents. But the first call I get is from an agent who says, I have a buyer. They're from California. And I'm going, ding, somebody that it needs to be here. So that's a wonderful checkbox for a seller. They work at, 2 wonderful companies. I won't mention them, tech companies. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so they are well qualified, probably have plenty of finances for it. And they are so desperate to see this home that I'm going to come over as early as later today.
Take a video.
And do a live video with them. And we're going to put in a full price offer.
Yeah, no.
And I'm saying to myself, yeah, that sounds nice, but I bet it doesn't work out.
Nope.
So, of course, I decide, hang up with them. I said, let me check with the seller, see if we can do anything before Sunday. Called the seller, and the seller said, yeah, this sounds great. And I said, hang on a second. If it seems too good to be true.
It usually is.
It usually is. Got his approval. We figured out a time today to go have the agent come over with their camera and do a live feed to the folks in California. And less than 5 minutes after I got the approval, she called and said, we're not interested in the house.
Exactly.
So that was a huge waste of time, right? And it set expectations, or at least a desire of the seller to sell quickly.
Right.
Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are people doing this to other people?
There's also that need of these agents, these buyers agents, to actually try to get deals on the table for themselves. It is a paycheck at the end of the day. And it's so competitive. But I have yet to see one of those work out, or they kind of fail at inspections, or the person has to come back and see it. I'm kind of in one now of that kind of like vibe. I'm actually showing it in the next couple of days. So it is very, very, you feel for the buyer's agents. But at the same time, we're trying to make it as easy on the sellers and as easy on the rest of the agents to get into the property. And I think the best way that's happening right now is just, everybody comes in one block. And just have, space out so they don't overlap each other. Just space them out. It makes it easier for the sellers, and it actually makes it easier for the buyer's agents just to all come in one shot instead of, just going in there and just doing these little, piecemeal showings.
So by the way, it's my show. So I'm going to little plugs on things. Brand new listing in Pinecrest. Older home, but in very good shape, has been renovated on a little lake. Beautiful. $3.5 million.
How's a big lot?
Lot is just short of an acre. Okay. And
good.
it's 4,100 square feet. So not a huge home, but
that's not bad.
Nice size home.
That's not bad.
Second one is in Palmetto Bay. I've got a large lot, 1.25 acres, in the Malbrook section. That's ready to go. And by the way, that 1.25 acres is not conforming with the neighborhood.
Right.
And the plan of the owner was to subdivide it, and he's just got interests elsewhere. So let somebody else go do that. So that could become 3 lots, and it would be a great builder's, project for sure. Or if you want a very large home in an area, you could do that.
You drop it in there.
And then finally, coming up, although I can't give any more details than that, is in Coral Gables. I've got a great home, smaller home. Again, we're not legally allowed to do that, but got a great home coming up next week. So I'm starting to see that listings are starting to, come alive again. So hopefully we can reduce that frenzy because of such low inventory. Are you feeling an inventory rise?
We've seen a little. Yes, there's been a little bit of a slight push up, like in the last, I would say last 3 weeks. You can see it, but again, it's typical of this time of year. That's when you're going to get, down here. That's where we get a lot of our listings.
Usually you see a bigger curve, but for sure. At least we're seeing a bump because
or something.
if we were at the same inventory
Yeah.
levels we were in November and December, I think people would start to,
What I have
strangle
noticed,
each other for that.
what I have noticed too is a lot more calls in to me to say, hey, listen, what do you think about selling now?
And,
and
your
I
answer
tell-
was
and I tell-
yesterday, right?
Yeah, and I tell them
Yeah.
all the same thing. I said, listen, if you have a place to go, there's no better market that you're going to see right now.
Yeah.
And the old saying in real estate is very simple. What's the best time to buy and sell today? Because that's all you know. So I think that's one of the key elements. But my plug is I have a property coming in on the Icon.
Great. Tell us about that.
It's one of those. No, it's not. It's over there. It's
Yeah.
back over there. Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
behind
on
your
the-
back.
Yeah, it's behind that building over there. So we have one on the 46th floor. Beautiful bay views.
Yeah.
City views, really, really nice. And it's listed at $699 fully furnished. So it's turnkey. You just move in, done all, everything.
Nice.
So we just, that'll go on the market. Actually, it's in the incomplete, just waiting on the pictures.
Yeah.
So that'll hit the market today. And what else we got out there? We've got a couple of quiet little deals going. So those are exciting.
Good.
We don't have to talk about this right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Those are all doing pretty good.
So, anything else on your mind? Because I'm actually you were late.
I know I was.
Okay.
I was very, very late.
And I don't think it's related to your own webcast that you're
No.
starting on.
No. It wasn't mine.
At least my heart, I would be hurt. if
No.
that was the case.
We've got six episodes in the already on
Wow.
on YouTube. So we've already got those, and we're having a lot of fun. It's if you want to follow a different type of podcast, it's Gotta Have Miami, and we have it on YouTube, and we're just going to work now and go into one of the providers, and we need a fancy intro because we don't have a fancy intro yet.
I know somebody that can potentially
I've heard of fancy intros.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that, and also we need to work on our camera style, because what ends up happening is we use Ashley's iPhone, and then every time we're like running out of something, the phone rings or something.
Yeah,
else.
you have to put it in airplane mode.
Exactly. So yeah, it gets a little rough out there. So
I learned that trick a long time ago.
well, we're learning that. Like our podcast says, we're like amateurs in the podcast business, but we're pros in real estate. And but we're having
that's good. I like that.
We're having a great time with it. It's a lot of fun, and it can be topical, and you can just pick on it. Things. We had somebody just a couple of days ago again about the Dolphins firing Flores, and then Flores suing the NFL for racial discrimination. But that's really not the big thing there. The big thing is if he can prove that he was bribed $100,000 per loss.
That's everything.
That's
everything
toast.
about the whole topic bothers me.
Yeah.
But that really, it would go to the integrity of the game.
Absolutely.
And I guess
that's-
we have to wait for the facts, because it's always something different than
it's
what it
always-
originally surfaces.
It's
is
always,
the way
it's always different. I am of opinion that it's going to be, you lose a couple games, we'll throw you $100,000 on each game
All right.
on something on a side deal.
Let's see if your mind goes the same place mine did. Washington has named their team the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you shorten the Washington Commanders?
.com. The comms.
The commies.
Yeah, the commies. Oh, that's not
Like,
that's not going to be good for Washington.
Who didn't think that all the way
that's
through?
not so much. I didn't.
The Washington
I know.
team are the commies?
I think that. Yeah, I know. I didn't like that name. I mean, I saw some of the intros on it, and the fact when they're saying, but don't worry, you're going to get used to it. It's like, yeah, no, maybe I won't have to get used to it.
I can get used to waterboarding, but I don't want to.
Exactly. So it's not something that we want to be. So I was not a big fan of that name. I actually liked it just as a football team. I thought that was a good enough name for them. The Washington football team. Yeah. Leave it at that.
Why
It was
not?
working.
It was generic.
Yeah. And it was working. So leave it at that. What are we going to do?
All right.
What else we got?
I guess very quickly, if anybody has a question,
We're
we
here.
still have the social media boxes open for you. Please do nice things to us. Let's see. You should start doing Hal's House of the Week. George, I like that idea.
That's a good idea.
We're going to do Hal's House of the Week and Hobbs' House, or we'll call them Homes of the Week, because sometimes they're condos, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. That's
a great comment. George, thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that he said? Would you rather take a higher offer with financing or a lower cash deal? Hav, I'm going to give you that softball.
Depends on the financing, to be quite honest. A lot of people think that the cash deal is going to be, sometimes it used to be worth $50,000. I simply think it all depends on what the financing is. If the financing is a strong offer, and I know that the properties have got a good appraisal position, I'll take the financing offer. I'm not afraid. A lot of these agents, they won't take an FHA deal. It doesn't matter to me as long as I know that the person has good financial position. It doesn't. I think
Uh,
it's right.
Obviously, with financing comes insurance
Sure.
and the appraisal. But if the listing agent does their job properly,
mhm.
what they should be doing immediately, even before the contract is signed, they can get in touch with the
Right.
financial institution rather, and really dig in and understand the quality of that buyer and how long that lender, is committing to getting things done and how fast.
And we've been
yeah.
doing this long enough to know when a property, is
Oh,
easy
yes.
to insure and what the values are going to be. It's again, this ain't our first rodeo. So again, if the financing is solid, if I know that the deal is going to move forward, I will take the financing deal and work the financing deal without a problem.
Yeah. And I guess, George, to answer your question a little bit more, the spread between the financed offer's offer price and the cash offer price,
Yeah.
if that's significant, then financing
Right.
typically, as long as we believe that it's going to appraise, right?
Yeah.
Or get very close.
Yeah.
All right, good.
And you're going to make it. What else is out there?
Greed is relative.
Yes.
If you give up 1% to close, wow, George is
George
is
is like
after
on it, man. Today,
George is after our commission already.
Right, already. I mean, we haven't even signed the deal yet, and he's already like beating us up. One of the things that I hate most is that, hate is a strong word. Let's not use the word. And we get this all the time when people come directly to the listing agent
Yes.
to try to work the deal.
Well, we're going to wrap with this answer.
So that's always one of the things, and then you can work the deal, or you only work for this percent or that percent or whatever percent. And I always tell the buyers, first of all, you don't know what my relationship with the seller is.
Right.
That's
the listing agreement, by
That's
the
the
way,
listing
just so
agreement.
people understand.
Yeah.
So when an owner
Mhm.
gives the right for somebody to sell
Mhm.
their home, they
Yeah.
sign what's called a listing agreement. In there is the relationship, not with the agent or broker, but with the brokerage
Yep,
where that agent or broker
Correct.
works.
Right.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then you have no idea what the split is between the brokerage and that agent.
Correct.
So yeah,
And mine
Slippery
is
slope.
but mine is always that you don't know the relationship I have with the seller.
Yeah.
You don't know what the seller's offering me. It could be a monkey. It could be, 2 elephants. You don't know any of that aspect of it. So the assumption right there is like, do I go to your job and say, hey, I don't want to pay what you're paying?
Yeah.
And again, it's unfortunate because our numbers are so obvious and people know, and it's, something that is,
well, or they think they know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they assume.
George, I guess here's the response. If you walked in and said, listen, you've been doing a great job and I know what you're making, you're going to make $5 less for the next 3 hours. And I say so. Well, who are you?
Right. But why are we beating up on George? George
We're
is a
not.
good guy.
No,
Sorry about that.
By the way, that was great. It was a great
That was
question.
actually, those are good questions.
Yeah. So I think what we need to do is wrap.
Can I flash back out then?
Actually, I'm going to disappear
you're gonna
first
disappear
because
first?
I'm going to be late to something.
Are
Thank you
you?
for that.
All right. So
Yeah.
then, all right, we'll
Yeah.
get.
I'm
we'll get
going over to that house and we're going to do our first couple of showings.
Nice. Good luck.
So that's wonderful.
I'm sure you'll do well.
Listing is living. That's
Exactly.
what we always
List
say.
to last, baby. List to last.
All right.
That's how it is.
So both of us are going to go list to last. If
There
you
you go.
want to get in touch with Hob and talk to him about your home, what's the phone number? Best way to reach?
305-582-5085 since 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not since 1986, but my number has never changed. 786-693-2005. We're talking about real estate every single week right here on this very show.
And football.
And football. Until next week, have a great week.
Take it easy.